Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obithorian Alliance. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Luke.
And in today's video, we're reviewing The Flash. If you like the sound of that, like and subscribe. Comment down if you enjoyed the movie. And let's get into it.
So what are the details people need to know about The Flash?
It is a first movie with The Flash, with Batman and Wonder Woman. And it is also about Flashpoint in the comics.
So this movie is The Flash's first solo movie, essentially?
Yep.
And where's it fall in the DC universe?
And Justice League have all had their movies, so he has already met his love interest and all those things.
So it's a continuation of that story opposed to an origin story.
Yes.
Who stars in this film?
Ezra Miller as the Flash and Barry Allen, and Michael Keaton reprised his role from his Batman back in the 90s.
And summarize the movie for me. What kind of happens in it?
Basically, Barry helps Batman and Wonder Woman with a bank heist, and from doing that, he realizes he can go back in time and redo things that have defined him as a superhero and change things. But Batman or Bruce Wayne. Bruce tells him not to, and of course he does, and that's when the bubble effect happens.
Yeah, so this all stems from Barry's dad, who has been in prison for many years for the wrongly accused murder of his wife and Barry Allen's mother, and they're fearing that their last possible chance of getting him out of jail is not going to work, so then he's going to have to resort to his own measures and go and change what happened. So let's move into the scores. What did you give the plot, Jacob?
The plot is a 9. Really enjoyed this multiverse sort of plot. I think it does a better job than Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange. Really love the emotions that we get to see with Barry and his reasons for doing what he does. It's really believable and really enjoyed it.
I gave the plot a 9.5 out of 10. I thought that it was very, very unique. It was entertaining, and even though we've seen this going back in time thing happen in many, many movies, and also we've seen either that or multiversal movies recently, this one kind of did a bit differently, and I really, really enjoyed it. What about the characters?
Characters gets a 9.5. I'm not the biggest DC fan, but I am a big fan of Batman, The Flash. Really enjoyed seeing all the characters and seeing Ben Affleck, his last time being Batman, and seeing all the characters, and I think this movie does a better job than the new, definitely Marvel movies at the moment.
I gave the characters a 9.5, very similar to Jacob. I really liked how they were presented. I liked the actors that played them, and this movie, I didn't think it was going to be funny, but it really was, and I think the actors put their own little twist on that, so really high quality for characters in this movie. So what about the acting?
Acting gets a 9. I really enjoyed the emotions that Ezra Miller gives, Michael Keaton reprising his role, but it is a superhero film, and I don't think they will win any Academy Awards, so that's why it's hard to give it a 10, but I still enjoyed their performances.
Same for me. I gave the acting a 9. I think that they, again, as it's a superhero movie, they're not going to win any awards, but, they portrayed the characters really well, and I think that particularly Ezra Miller making Barry Allen quite funny and likable. I've not been known that much about the Flash prior to this film, and I think that it kind of gave off that kind of Spider-Man vibe, this playful younger character, and I think he did a really, really good job. What about the entertainment factor, Jacob?
This gets a 9.5. It is entertaining, and I really did enjoy it, but ultimately it is a superhero movie, so I did know what was going to happen at the end. But getting there, I did enjoy it, and I actually enjoyed this a lot more than any of the Marvel movies this year, and the beginning scene I think showed that DC, if they had their act together, could actually be better than Marvel.
So I gave it a 9. I think that I was entertained throughout. It was longish, but it didn't drag on too much. So that for that reason, I'm going to give it a 9, just because it felt a little bit long. But ultimately, I was entertained throughout. There wasn't any lulls. What about the presentation and visuals?
This gets an 8. I really enjoyed the visuals of the action scene in the beginning with the Batmobile, but there were some effects that did look pretty bad, so there were some weird choices. This is probably the weakest category, but still enjoyed it.
So I gave the presentation 8.5. I think some of the scenes they really nailed, like the opening scene, and I enjoyed the showing the slow motion and Barry trying to save people. But then I also got turned off by the running. I thought that the Flash looked really weird when he's running, and his arms were a bit weird, and I just don't think they've nailed yet how to present the speed the Flash travels at without it making it look really weird. So an 8.5 for me. What about the pacing or the feel of this film?
This gets a 9. I did enjoy the pacing, but ultimately you kind of know what the movie's going to eventually lead to. But I did enjoy the emotions and everything that happened in the movie. Superheroes have kind of become predictable. That's kind of the main problem with the pacing.
Yeah, so I gave the pacing a 9 as well. I thought that it was consistent. It started off fast and then kind of maintained it and didn't have too many lulls. So it did a good job, which easily a film of this long could fail in that way, but I didn't think that was the case. What about the ending?
For me, it's a 10. I actually really enjoyed the ending. It didn't end in any cliffhangers or anything like that. It just ended in a way that you were satisfied. You were sad that the Flash had to do what he had to do, but, you know, everything was wrapped up well and it was very satisfying.
I also gave the ending a 10. I liked that it wrapped it up. It had enough cameos. It kind of, even the end credit scenes added in a little bit more element to it. It was kind of, yes, it was predictable, but it was good. It was what you expected, so I'm happy with the ending. Really nice and tidy. What about the originality or uniqueness?
This gets an 8. It is cool seeing DC's version of the multiverse and Flashpoint, but we have seen this done quite a lot of times, but I think this does it better than other films we've seen it, and I actually enjoyed DC's version of the multiverse, even though I've seen it twice in Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, and this does it better, so it shows that DC can make good films.
So I gave it an 8.5. I thought it was really, really unique how it went about it. The concept of him wanting to go back in time and undo what had happened, that's not necessarily unique, but I like the fact that it wasn't multiverses, but instead going back through time allowed him to somehow affect and change characters, and different strands worked really well, and ultimately how it all looped back around, and he kind of, he becomes his own worst enemy in a way with the cause and effect of going back in time. And I thought that was really cool, and still taking a bit of time to wrap my head around, so it's unique for that sense. What about the target audience?
This gets a 9. I really think a lot of DC fans are really going to like this movie, and superhero fans in general. I don't know if the wider public will like this movie. They probably will, but unlike Air or other movies, it will probably be more divided. I personally like it, but that's because I like superhero films. It comes down to personal taste, but I still think they appealed to the people that they wanted to, and that was DC fans and superhero fans.
So for the target audience, I gave it a 9.5. I thought that those that are already fans would have been really happy and got what they expected, and those that were not yet fans of the Flash, they've now made new fans of it. So for that, I think it really nailed the target audience. I think it would take, I don't know, some kind of super Flash fan to pull us apart and really dislike it, because it was just the fun for our first installment of a solo movie. Ultimately, time value, was it worth watching, Jacob?
Yep, this gets a 9. It's probably the top 3 movie I've seen this year. Definitely worth seeing if you're a superhero fan or Flash or DC fan. You've probably already seen it, but I still think it's worth seeing if you aren't one of those people. It's just a fun film and very emotional movie.
I also gave it a 9. I'm glad I saw it. I saw it as a preview screening. I'd happily go see it again, and I would recommend it to anyone that has some form of interest in comic books or superheroes, because even if you know nothing about The Flash, you'll still enjoy this film. So what was your final score?
It gets a well-deserved 90%. That's with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and it's definitely in the top 3 movies of the year. It's high-class film, well made. Everything is very high class. If this was one of the ways that DC would have been at the beginning, I think they even would have been better than Marvel. Yeah.
So my scores add up to being 91%. Same with Jacob. It's a top 3 movie I've seen this year. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's up there with the best DC films I've seen. You know, the Aquaman, the original Wonder Woman, and this. Obviously, The Dark Knight and even the most recent Batman are kind of a separate universe. This is of the kind of funny, playful universe. So it's really up there, and I think it outshines really any of the Marvel movies I've seen in quite a while. So I'm really liking the direction that DC are taking.
Yes. If you enjoyed this video, comment down below your thoughts. Like and subscribe. As always, you're awesome and keep being awesome. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.